Until our program concludes this afternoon, your presence is very much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, to give barakah of our auspicious event, I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Abdul Majid Ubaid Hassan Saleh to recite the dua. فليتفضل مأجورا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على النبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لك الحمد كثيرا كما تعطي كثيرا، ولك الحمد كثيرا كما تهب كثيرا. اللهم لك الحمد على ما أنعمت به، ولك الشكر على ما أوليت وأعطيت. اللهم إنا نسألك في هذا اليوم المبارك أن تجعل اجتماعنا هذا اجتماع خير وبركة، وأن تكتب لنا فيه القبول والتوفيق والسداد. اللهم بارك في هذه الجهود وبارك في القائمين عليها، واجعل ما نقدم خالصا وجهك الكريم. اللهم ارزقنا الإخلاص في القول والعمل. اللهم يا معلم داود علمنا، ويا مفهم سليمان فهمنا. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وعملا صالحا ورزقا حلالا طيبا. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم اجعلنا مفاتيح خير مغاليق شر، إنك جواد كريم. اللهم إنا نسألك أن تفتح علينا فتوح العارفين. اللهم افتح علينا فتوح العارفين. اللهم إنا نسألك أن تمكن للمتحدثين القول بالصواب، وأن تجعل ما نقوم به ونعمل به خير لأمتنا، إنك جواد كريم. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا، وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم إنا نسألك في عملنا هذا البر والتقوى، إنك جواد كريم. وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت، أستغفرك وأتوب إليك، والحمد لله رب العالمين.
آمين يا رب العالمين. جزاك الله خيرا كثيرا Dr. Abdul Majid Ubaid Hassan Saleh. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to kick off our event, it is my pleasure to invite to the stage Professor Dr. Ramzi Rosman, Dean of IBF, to deliver his welcoming speech. Please welcome him.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. Distinguished guests, honored speakers and panelists, regulators, industry leaders, academicians, researchers, beloved students, brothers and sisters. It is with a great pleasure and deep gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I warmly welcome all of you to the first IIBF Islamic Social Finance Summit 2025. On behalf of IIBF and the International Islamic University Malaysia, I would like to sincerely thank all of you for taking the time to be part of this important gathering. Your presence reflects a shared commitment to advancing Islamic social finance as a meaningful force for socio-economic development, humanitarian response, and sustainable prosperity. We are deeply honored by the participation of eminent scholars, policymakers, regulators, CEOs of Islamic financial institutions, leaders of zakat institutions, humanitarian organizations, fintech innovators, and members of academia. The diversity of expertise gathered here today is a strong testament of the multi-stakeholder nature of Islamic social finance. Islamic social finance does not belong to a single institution or sector. It is an ecosystem, one that requires alignments between policy, governance, innovation, and values. Today's summit brings together this element in one platform. Brothers and sisters, this summit is organized under the theme 20 Years of Impact, Reshaping the Dynamic of Islamic Social Finance. This theme is particularly meaningful to us as it coincides with the 20th anniversary of IIBF. Over the past 2 decades, IIBF has been actively involved in education, research, and advisory, and thought leadership in Islamic banking and finance, both nationally and internationally. At the same time, this theme invites us to reflect on how Islamic social finance itself has evolved over the last 20 years. Historically, Islamic social finance instruments such as zakat, wakaf, and sadaqah were largely administered in silos, often focusing on short-term relief. While these efforts were noble and necessary, they were sometimes limited in scale, sustainability, and impact measurement. Today, we are witnessing a significant transformation. Islamic social finance is increasingly being positioned as a development finance tool, a complement to Islamic finance, and a mechanism for achieving maqasid ash-shariah. At IIUM, we firmly believe that Islamic social finance is not an optional component of the Islamic financial system. Rather, it represents its moral and ethical values. In an era marked by widening inequality, humanitarian crisis, climate-related risks, and technological disruptions, these values are not merely aspirations, they are urgently needed. Islamic social finance, when properly governed and innovatively structured, has the potential to move beyond redistribution towards empowerment, beyond charity towards resilience, and beyond intention towards measurable impacts. Distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, at this juncture, I would like to take a moment to express our deepest appreciation and sincere gratitude to our sponsors and strategic partners whose generous support has made this summit possible. Your support goes beyond partnerships. It reflects a shared vision, a shared responsibility, and a shared commitment to strengthening the Islamic social finance ecosystem in a manner that is impactful, accountable, and aligned with maqasid ash-shariah. We are truly honored to have your partnerships, especially as we reach 20 years of IIBF contribution to the industry, society, and ummah. Brothers and sisters, the program for today reflects the current and future priorities of Islamic social finance. Inshallah, we will explore the emergence of new asset classes for Islamic social finance, the role of fintech and blockchain in enhancing transparency, efficiency, and scalability, the mobilization of Islamic social finance for faith-based humanitarian response to global crisis, and issues related to benchmarking, rating, governance, and accountability of social finance initiatives. These discussions are timely. Stakeholders today are no longer asking only how much we disburse, but how effective, sustainable, and transformative our interventions are. As an academic institution, IIBF sees its role as more than producing graduates and publication. Our responsibility is to facilitate evidence-based dialogue, inform policy and regulatory thinking, and develop future leaders who are grounded in knowledge and ethics. We hope that iSFIS 2025 will serve as platform for convergence between academia and industry, between policy and practice, and between values and innovation. Before I conclude, I would like to congratulate the organizing committee, the IIUM team, and all collaborators for their dedication and hard work in delivering this summit. As we begin today's session, I encourage all participants to engage actively, share best practices, and explore avenues for collaboration beyond this event. May this discussion today contribute meaningfully to reshaping the dynamic of Islamic social finance so that it becomes more impactful, more accountable, and more responsive to the needs of the Ummah and humanity at large. With that, it is my honor and pleasure to once again welcome all of you to the first IIIBF Islamic Social Finance Summit 2025. May Allah grant barakah to our efforts. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Ramzi, for that inspiring welcome. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we now move directly into our first panel discussion of the day. The emergence of new asset classes for Islamic social finance. Joining us are these distinguished panelists, Professor Dr. Azlan Hassan, eminent scholar, IIM Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance, IIBF, Chairman, Sharia Advisory Committee, Securities Commission Malaysia. Next, Sharifatul Haniza Said Ali, Executive Director, Islamic Capital Market, Securities Commission Malaysia, and Muhammad Asri Omar, CEO of AIA Public Takaful Berhad. The session will be moderated by Professor Datin Dr. Rosmi Hassan, eminent scholar of IIBF, IIUM. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderators and panelists to the stage. But before I pass the microphone to our moderator, actually Professor Dr. Rosmi Hassan is internationally recognized as a distinguished female figure in the fields of Islamic banking and finance. She currently serves as a professor at the IIBF, IIUM. She is an academic researcher and authority in Islamic banking and finance with more than 30 years of experience in academia. Throughout his career, she has taught, published, and supervised academic work, particularly in the areas of Sharia, contracts, and Islamic banking law. Her publications include books, book chapters, and journal articles published both locally and internationally. She has also been listed among the top 10 most influential scholars in Islamic finance research on the Scopus database. From an industry perspective, Professor Dr. Rusni has been actively involved as a regulator and Sharia committee member for financial institutions both domestically and internationally. Her scholarly contributions to Islamic finance have received global recognition as she was ranked among the top 10 most influential women in Islamic banking and finance for 7 consecutive years from 2019 to 2025 by Cambridge IFA. Her most recent accolade is being named Islamic Finance Personality of the Year 2025, awarded by the Global Islamic Finance Award, GIFA.
Thank you very much.
Pass the mic to you.
Terima kasih Ustaz Joe for very long introduction. You don't need that at this point of time. Of course, thank you very much, however, for a very good introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, everyone. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. First of all, thank you very much, everyone, Prof. Ramzi, IIBF team. And the most important one is that everyone who are here today in this Saturday morning, raining outside, early morning. I know for us, people like us, right? Mothers always, this is the pasar tani time. Okay. But Alhamdulillah, also for fathers, okay, present also for fathers. But Alhamdulillah, today we gather here in this very auspicious and barakah session that to lend our ears to discuss a topic which is very, very interesting. That is about Islamic social finance. I pick up the cue from the welcoming remarks by Prof. Romzi. It's a very powerful, what we call it, content as regards to the Islamic social finance. Now, I do not need to go through what Islamic social finance and whatnot. And in front of us, we have three speakers. The first one will be Prof. Datuk Datasnan. Nak introduce ke? Tak payah dah kan? Nah, itulah. Jadi rasa macam tak payah dah lah kot cerita Prof. Aznan ni. Nama je pun dah tersebut. Alhamdulillah. But most importantly, we are introducing him as our eminent scholars in the IIM Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance. Okay. And we have Puan Sharifatul Haniza, our friend, colleague, always strong support to IIBF, IIUM, as well as industry as a whole. And she is the Executive Director for Islamic Capital Market of Securities Commission Malaysia. Of course, there's numbers of efforts that of course she did in terms of Islamic capital market, particularly, okay, and having more than 30 years of experience, okay, in the Islamic finance, starting from portfolio management, investment analysis, and so on and so forth. And now, what we call it, she is with us, most importantly, to share her thought on particularly regulatory perspective on Islamic social finance. Okay. Last but not least, we have Encik Asri Omar, again big name in Takaful, the CEO of AIA Public Takaful Berhad. Okay. And also member of Islamic Banking and Finance Institute Malaysia, and I believe also sits in MPA. Jasri, sits MPA. Most importantly, he is also graduate of IIUM. Very brief introduction. Okay, Alhamdulillah. So we are given about I think 1 hour. I thought originally when we started at 8:20, the schedule given to us, we were like, wow, 8:20 in the morning, what we're going to talk. But I believe it's not going to be done, it's not going to be, because we have a very hot speakers in front of us, inshallah. Yeah? So basically, we are going to start with Prof. Aznan, okay? And when for Prof. Aznan, of course, the question, Prof. Aznan, maybe we can start off the first round with 10 minutes each, okay? And then the second round in between, if there is then we are going to invite some questions, okay? But I was informed that the question also will be through Slido, yeah? Do we also allow direct questions? Now, we are going to start off with a very basic, what we call it, questions, Prof. Aznan. Quite boring in a way, not boring in a sense that, wow, academic always go to the very basic and fundamental. What is Islamic social finance asset? And now we are talking about Islamic social finance as the new asset class. What are we talking about? Okay, of course we know about wakaf, sadaqah and whatnot. Is this the instruments that we are talking about when we talk about this new asset class in Islamic finance? Okay, so maybe Prof. Aznan can bring that perspective on traditional versus so-called contemporary Islamic social finance instruments, and particularly how this Islamic social finance now become a new asset class. Because when we talk about new asset class, means that it's going to be very big, it's going to be strong. What are those perspectives, maybe Prof. Aznan? Fadal mashkura.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ala tabi'in wa sallallahu ala. Thank you Prof. Rosni, Puan, and also Asri, and also the participants. I think we make it simple today. I mean, Saturday is a Father Day going to the pasal
tadi.
First of all, as usual, whatever I say today is my personal point of view. It does not represent this commission or also IIA Takaful and also IDF. All the three entities are involved in one way or another. But today is my opinion, and almost independent, not to be associated for any controversial opinion from the right. I mean, social finance is a new term used, but in actual fact, it has been there for so long. We talk about zakat, we talk about wakaf, we talk about sedekah, we talk about qadr hasan. We talk about other charitable instruments that may come under Islamic social finance. It's not something new, it has been there for so long. Wakaf has accounted for at least half of the Islamic dynasty for them. In fact, during the Ottoman Empire, Wakaf is one of the main what we call funder for the Muslim society. In one situation, it was said that nearly 60% of the requirement of funding in the Ottoman Empire was funded by Wakaf. How strong it was. It was so sad that Wakaf has gone too bad. We have been colonized, most of the Muslim countries everywhere in the world have been colonized. The role of Wakaf has been subsided to so bad situation. But in original form, Wakaf was a very strong instrument of social finance. Zakat, of course, one of the things. That's why in Sharia school of law, different from other school of law, when we give zakat, the intention is not only for 1 year. The intention is zakat for lifetime. People might hear that is a new one, right? No, it's not a new one. This has been the Sharia school of law. That's why in zakat, if someone can work, we don't give money. We give whatever that he can use for him to work. Zakat for the lifetime. This is Sharia school of law. That is sustainability that we have. Don't talk about sedekah. Don't talk about qadr hasan. In fact, in one of the hadiths of the Prophet, they said that if you give qadr hasan, you might get reward more than when you give sedekah. Why? Because someone will not beg unless he really needs, am I right? So when you give him, you really help him. But sedekah, I might not want since someone give, I take it. So I'm not in that need as far as heart is concerned. So that's how traditionally these four instruments or other instruments of charitable entities or charitable mechanism has been Islamic social finance mechanism. That is in traditional level. But if you study over time, the Jews always come up with new ideas and new interpretation and new way on how to do these particular things. During the time of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, for example, he come with the idea of al-Irsad. How? Because of he realized that the value of the zakat money, the zakat asset has been reduced. How for us to allow for the government to use the zakat, the government property to become al-irsad? So it can be wakaf and it can be retracted back. So all those things come, as scholars come with all the ideas. Then the Hanafi school, they come with zakat al-nuqud, cash wakaf. All those are new instruments that come in. Why? Because people realize the importance of the what we call the social finance instrument to be evolved and developed from time to time. In modern time, we see a lot of new things. Prof. Ramzi mentioned about people now looking into social finance is not from distribution point of view only. No more. People demanding from zakat not to ask how much you distribute, how you distribute, and how sustainable is your distribution. And zakat, all these instruments is no longer from redistributive point of view, but also from productive point of view. That's where the Islamic social finance in modern time has changed a lot in terms of the asset class and everything. With the coming of new technology, digital and everything, we see a lot of new development. In Malaysia, for example, not talking from SA point of view, but my understanding of what we want to do is that we do two things in the SC to create Islamic and to look at Islamic social finance not only from charity point of view, but something that is beneficial, sustainable, that can benefit not only to the donor but also to the recipient. Two things.
The first one, we do what we call liberalization of Islamic capital market. Previously, if you are not quote-unquote high net worth, your only sphere of Islamic capital market is only equity. Belilah equity, itu pun mungkin boleh menang daripada dia beruntung. But because of that's the only thing that we can do. For you to come to Sukuk, for you to come to other instrument of capital market, you have to be what we call high net worth individual. And be careful, definition of high net worth is not what education that you have, but how much you have. You might be a professor, but you are not high net worth because you don't have a lot of money. Yeah. The definition in our country, in some countries, for you to become high net worth, sophisticated, you have to have at least 5 million net worth, not just what you have, net worth. So you might not be someone educated, but you are high net worth. Might be a professor, you are too good, you can just everything, but you are not high net worth. Why? Because you are not rich. What we do, the evaluation of in terms of instrument that we do. Now you have ECP, you have a lot of instrument that we can come in. Equity crowdfunding, you have P2P and everything, ensuring that instrument of capital market can be used for not only high net worth individuals, but also for those who are on the street. You can come and invest in small amount. You can raise fund for social finance using all the PCW and everything. That's the first one. Second one, if you are aware, we have come up with what we call the new Maqasid framework, new Maqasid guidance. The intention of this new Maqasid guidance is very important. Why? We look at not only from the form of the thing, we go and the substance, but it is something measurable and quantifiable. The problem is Maqasid. What is the problem with Maqasid? People always look at Maqasid something so abstract. Am I right? But how for us to bring down to be something measurable and quantifiable? That's what we want to do, and that we enhance further on Islamic social finance. Now, the coming of technology, you see a lot of new instruments come to the picture. We now in equity, for example, we have what we call equity screen bank based on Islamic and also based on ethical. I remember when we start Airbus, I'm not sure if you have heard about Airbus or not. It was, I don't remember what year, long time ago, after I left them, because too busy, can call me. We started 3 scholars at that time, me, Shell David, and Shell Shenzo. We started that. They said we want to combine 2, ethical and Islamic. I said, wow, good thing. Okay, it is done. So we meet with the scholars of Oxford. They come from the ethical point of view. We feed them with the Sharia point of view, and that comes what we call Airbus Islamic ethical screen. When we combine together, the ethical together with the Islamic become one of the new screen already adopted by Airbus, not by Islam taking on Airbus. So all those new things, now with the technology, you have tokenized wakaf, for example. Zakat is no longer be seen as something that you can just give whatever you want. But with the coming of this new technology, you have what we call blockchain and everything for you to use. That is new instrument of Islamic capital market in the sphere of Islamic social finance that we can continue to talk about. The last kita punya budget, for example, we talk about Islamic tokenized sukuk wakaf. Yet we don't have anything in Malaysia. Not sukuk wakaf framework, not even tokenized framework. It's a big thing that we talk. We don't have a lot of things to do. We are now doing that in UAE, for example. How to we have sukuk, we have shares. How for us to fractionize the sukuk and shares to be able to enjoy by new people, normal people like us, the retail people. Malaysia, you don't have that kind of thing yet. A lot of things need to be done for us to ensure that Islamic social finance not let what we call a traditional asset class, but can evolve to be a new asset class that can bring so powerful tool to the market.
Just bring one. Out of wakaf, zakat, and sedekah, what are the instruments or the tools that you think that excites you most and that have a big potential?
Wakaf and zakat. Wakaf is a big thing actually. Wakaf, the problem kita ni, our problem when we see wakaf, tengok kubur. When we see wakaf, they are non-Malay. When we see wakaf, we see all the graveyard. When we see wakaf, we all see all the mosques. That is wakaf. We do other than that, it's not wakaf anymore. Wakaf is huge. One book writing, he said that during the Ottoman Empire, there was more than 72 purpose of wakaf. 72 purpose of wakaf. Even the wakaf can be used to cool down the angry wife. So that's so. Say more than 72 purpose of wakaf. That's a very powerful. Sorry,
Pagi-pagi we kind of a bit warm, but then a bit relaxed kind of thing, without, of course, compromising the substance of the contents of the discussion today. I hope that's the spirit today. Of course, gurau-gurau juga kind of thing, but we are discussing about something that is very powerful, and the discussion today is very, very important and urgent for us to do. Okay? Because now everyone are talking about Islamic social finance. I think if I remember it well, this Islamic social finance terminology was coined by IDB way back in 2013, 2014, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? And now we can see where we are today. People are so excited talking about Islamic social finance and whatnot. Okay? Now we are going to move to Puan Sharifatul. Okay? From the perspective of regulator. Now, just now, taking from Prof. Hassan's side, that there's a lot of things that is happening, which also include capital market. Okay, but I believe not only capital market, but also takaful. We come into takaful later, and Jasri will address that. But now, we would like to see from the regulator's perspective, particularly, as mentioned earlier, that when we talk about wakaf, zakat and sadaqah, not new, something that is already there, but now we are looking into these tools become a very powerful tool in the context of Islamic finance now, with the technology and whatnot. But most importantly, the social element is always there. Yeah? Now this is high time for us, particularly in view of the crisis that we are facing, the social needs, education, housing, retirement. Those are the subject matters that we have always been talking about as of now, particularly in Malaysian context. And so we can see that how then this Islamic social finance can be embedded into capital market in particular, and then can have more meaningful contribution towards the social needs. And I'm not sure, okay, what more now when we are talking about the the issue that we are facing these several days about the climate change, what happened to what we call it Indonesia and whatnot. So maybe, but we can start off by looking into what are the potential of Islamic social finance. Okay, via capital market, Islamic capital market, towards fulfilling or at least solving some of the issues. Of course, we may not be able to solve all, but some of the issues of the need for the social, ethical, and whatnot. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to say thank you to the organizers for inviting me to speak, and of course, a pleasure to be among the esteemed panelists up here. And also an congratulations to IFBF for the 20th anniversary and for organizing first Islamic Finance Summit where we can have these conversations for sure. And as you say, it's a powerful and transformative conversation. I always find that if I have to speak after the chairman of my SAC, I'm thinking what else can I add to it, because I'm sure he has his views and I've always found it fascinating. Actually, the first time I heard, I found it was a very thought-provoking conversation was, I think, probably 10-15 years ago, that Dato' Azman was actually on the stage talking about wakaf. I won't repeat what he said on that day, but it was a very thought-provoking statement that made me think, what else could we do about this segment that has always been kind of pigeonholed into, as what Dr. said just now, where every time you think about wakaf, you always think that it's related to masjid, education, or the tombstones. I sit on a wakaf committee for the all the allocations and all the requests for wakaf is actually almost 70 to 80% is for education, tahfiz, or for your afterlife. Very few is related to anything else. So that mindset change has to be incorporated for sure, because maybe that's all people know. Because that's all we preach, that's all that we say. When you wakaf is for your afterlife, it's for getting brownie points. So I think there's a lot of stakeholders that need to do about it. But okay, ISF, or for short, Islamic Social Finance, encompasses a lot. And I think the chairman of SC, SAC also touched on a few points which I wanted to do a follow-up comment. Actually, for SC, the capital markets, as you all know, is interesting. Everyone always thinks that capital market is related to equities, stocks, shares. The rich only can play in that playground. It was probably around 2014 that started or triggered the approach internally at the regulator that we needed to think it a little bit differently when the topic of sustainability started coming in. And if some of you may know, that was when 2014 we introduced the SRI Sukuk framework. And when SRI Sukuk framework came out, I still like to think that it's a bragging right that we have, that we were ahead of the Paris Accord even in 2015 when we started talking about sustainability. We didn't have to be triggered by 17 SDGs to realize that sustainability was a key element. So we started that in 2014. But as it went on, there's always a conversation, how does one converge Islamic capital market and sustainability? Because one's faith-based and one's not, and one can be thematic. So those conversations came in. But interestingly, I think for Securities Commission, we have always been guided by various iterations of our capital market master plan, a strategic document that's really the North Star for us, to guide industry, to guide the players, the stakeholders. What do you do? In CMP3, the theme changed and shifted to stakeholder focus. All of you remember it was during the COVID. It was a struggle actually for the regulators to come up with a document at that time to say where would the market go, because we were faced with a situation no one ever was planning anything for. So the stakeholder phrase came in, stakeholder economy. And that was the first time actually that more serious attention started to be paid to the segment of Islamic social finance. We started to have or continue conversations where can ICM play a role in wakaf, for example. Zakat was a bit tricky. So I'll come back to zakat later on, and I know I have my chairman of SEC here, so I'm going to kind of use this as an opportunity because we have a meeting next week and we're going to be talking about something. So I nak Canada lah sikit, boleh tak support nanti topik ni next week. So wakaf was a topic that we felt we could go in quite easily. So when we did that, and again, the point that Dr. Azna brought up, usually when you look at social finance from the capital market perspective, you tend to touch on returns or distribution. What do we do? Because you couldn't go into the principal side without being very complicated. So we looked at wakaf, we introduced wakaf featured fund framework, we encouraged fund managers to actually work with state religious councils to look at projects where dividends of the fund could be routed to those projects. There's a whole mechanism to it, but the intent was you then bridge capital market and wakaf, where people could actually do good, be good, and achieve good. So we started those baby steps. So to date, we have about 6 or 7 unit trust funds that actually are contributing to that segment. But that was just wakaf. So how does one broaden the social finance issues in the capital market? So 2023, we also wanted to look at what was the broader picture. And this was a really tricky conversation, especially with Sharia scholars. I'm not a Sharia scholar. How does one bring maqasid into the topic? As Dr. Azna reminds all of us, even in our meetings, it's a very abstract topic, and I'm the last to say I'm going to be an expert or even attempt at it. But what we tried to do was bring it to the simple terms, where people who are not Sharia scholars, because otherwise we would end up excluding people. And in the capital market, our intention with sustainability and how we wanted to do everything was be inclusive. That's the whole agenda of where we thought we wanted to be. So we tried to make it simple, and if you realize the document that SC produced in 2023 is a very specific document. It has got the longest title till today I'm being reminded about by various people. It says, Maqasid Al-Shari'ah Guidance for the Islamic Capital Market of Malaysia. That was how much we ring-fenced it, because we wanted to say that it was only applicable, it was applied to the ICM of Malaysia, because we knew everyone would have different views, and I think even until today, I'm just being frank, there's a lot of rhetoric going on about it in various, in various conversations. So we brought Maqasid into the conversation, we brought stakeholders into the conversation, so that was what CMP3 did. But I think, Prof. Rosni, I think when you come back to this whole topic and how does one bring it to the capital market, just for context, let me share with you that even in various research editions or research materials done around the world, why ISF is such a struggle, especially for regulators, is that it is a very fragmented ecosystem. And it goes back to each jurisdiction, each country, each state for that matter, if it's Malaysia. And therefore, how does one make impact if it's difficult to get scale? Because if you want to impact, if you want to measure impact, it comes with scale. And what we found is when we went into this space, governance and financial standards vary. State laws vary. Zakat and Wakaf, for example, in Malaysia come under state Islamic religious councils. Departments that do it at the federal level establish and administer different levels. And if you look at Wakaf and Zakat and then you add in Sadaqah, that bit is also very minimal in terms of trying to get information. So I know the next session is, I hope the next session might touch on this, but data is very limited. Everyone quotes, if you look at Wakaf, and I have been speaking at a number of different segments where I think even PMX has been quoting the same number. There's 1 trillion Wakaf assets, and we all go back and ask, where's this 1 trillion? Where is this 1 trillion assets? And you find in various states, nobody seems to be able to put a pin on it. And what does one do if we are trying to come up with digital systems, for example, and this is where blockchain or technology can help? How does one make sure that beneficiary targeting, for example, is properly done? Do you then just confine to one pilot project and then live with it? Or how does one report on it? So, for example, data collection on zakat and redistribution, some states are not available on the Jawha's website. Or you can't find it, and for various reasons. So this is something that somebody has to own up and try and do. SC tried to also nudge a little bit, where we have started Wakaf Roundtable, and I'm happy, I think, Prof. Rosni, I think if we can actually connect this to that roundtable where we try and do it on an annual basis, where we realized there were states that actually had been progressing and have data, and had a data architecture that they were willing to share with other states. So we had one on the East Coast who was now sharing with another East Coast state. So we found that those are things that can help, but again, data. But coming back to Islamic social finance, what triggered the conversation is if you just look at sustainable as an agenda, sustainability, where Wakaf, Zakat, and Sadaqah all can feed into it, right? When you look at sustainable funding, there's a financing gap of about 4 trillion. People who benefit from Islamic social finance do belong to whether it's the B40 or the SMEs or the MSMEs that come that need this to survive. I think I like what Dr. Azlan was talking about, where you actually make it for, you teach a man how to fish or you give a man a fish to eat, right? So what we found was that was where we needed to come with instruments like ECR P2P. But again, it's a coordinated effort, but with various gaps. So I know, Prof. Rosni, for the context I'm giving you, and regulators, we love data, right, before we come to it. So the question, how do you then make this social sector, including the communities working on it, find that social finance can be positioned for them, right? It has to be structured. There is a lot of capital everywhere, whether in Malaysia, whether in the Middle East, whether in the OIC countries. Islamic social finance can make a difference. People understand these concepts. But what we are trying to do is for the capital market to elevate social finance using the capital market discipline. which means our structures that we bring to the market using wakaf, sadaqah or zakat, they must be structures that are transparent, accountable, investable. For example, our wakaf featured fund framework, the ground rule is that fund managers can only work with state religious councils, not private sector. Reports must be put into the annual report of the fund so that people know where the dividends or distributions are being made. We don't only have that. In fact, I think if you go back to 2014, if I recall, I think last time I remember Suku Ihsan, Suku Ihsan, where you actually showed how a social need, which was education as an outcome, can be turned into investable structure. I don't think they had step up kind of doesn't, but it was, when you understood it, you had stakeholders coming in. So we then have also Wakaf Link IPO, we have Lakin Central. Again, these were things and innovation that came in. So I think from a capital market perspective, we have been trying to put a lot of different parts of building blocks together. We have the featured fund framework, we have the SRI in Sukuk. We also even have an MSME roadmap that shows where can you bring in the segment that needs this help into the Islamic finance, Islamic capital market space. But we need to make sure that there is structure, there's standards, there's trust, and I think under our upcoming capital market plan, master plan, which is coming up in January, so you all will be among the first to hear about this, we are looking at greater facilitation of this segment. I think we are looking at areas that look at infrastructure, the governance of it, how can we transform this into platforms that can help communities, because we believe, I think as regulators, we do play, we are responsible for the catalytic role, but we also need traction and scale. ICM has a lot of opportunities to build it, but it also takes awareness. So for example, impact, you were asking about how ICM has done it. Post the issuance of our Makasid guidance, I think Dr. Azna, we also will be happy to know this, more than 30 sukuks issued have actually adopted alignment and reflected that there is impact or reason and need to why they issued the paper. We've asked them to come in. And of course, I don't think I'm wrong in telling you that when we started out that agenda of introducing the Makasid into our products and services, we wanted it to be voluntary. We wanted it to be a way of life. But maybe as it becomes a way of life, making it a mandatory requirement where it's a given might be something we want to consider so that it becomes embedded. We don't want to just fix Sharia compliance. I think Islamic social finance is where we can manifest or demonstrate it. So we want ICM to actually touch real lives, the real economy. I think that's where the capital markets is heading now.
Okay, thank you. I want to pick up from that. Okay? You have shared a lot of initiatives that were taken, 2014, SRI and whatnot. But there's always some criticism that in terms of the SRI, for example, the decade is low kind of thing compared to the commercially driven Islamic capital market instruments. So do you strongly believe that moving forward people are more attractive to this Islamic social finance driven so-called sukuk and whatnot?
Okay, I think the reason SRI Sukuk may not have seen that much of a traction as we see it, and it goes back to the commercial needs of the issuers and the understanding. I think whether or not it's SRI Sukuk or even if it's an ESG Sukuk, it doesn't have to be Islamic. The issue is that are we all paying attention to what's going on around us? Where if you don't do what you need to do, you don't realize that sustainability is no longer negotiable. We are all inundated with so many disasters, for example, and you're right. The tendency has always been to look at sustainability and connect it to climate, and maybe that's why the touch of it has been a little bit less. But if the stakeholders also demand that there is that need to ensure there is impact, then that cycle can, I think, be effectively introduced. Right now, when you look at it, you are issuing it for economic needs, but you don't need to show what's the impact of it on the market or the ecosystem, and no one's holding you responsible for it. But when investors actually say, no, I'm not going to invest in it unless you show me an impact, it then becomes a way of life. So Malaysia has been lucky all this while. We don't see that many national level disasters, maybe a bit sparingly. But for the last 3 or 4 months, you are seeing rains and floods that you don't see. You don't see what is the remedial factors, and those are things that's going to be needing funding. When you realize if you're going to want to have a accountable life, and there needs to be funding for that, and there needs to be impact to be shown, the shift I think will surely come. But also, I think, Prof, the tendency is the structured way. So one thing I forgot to say, you asked me just now with a lot of things to do with the climate, E, S, and the G. But that's why on the G, we're also asking the accountability of the people who sit at the desk and make decisions to know what you are doing. Why are you actually doing the issuers? So we found that issuers are now understanding why am I taking that route with the SRI, other than the normal incentives. But on the S, if I may, I can talk about this later, SE also is introducing a social exchange. So that's also another structured approach. But I think that's really the case. Do we realize the importance of it? Until we realize outside my house it can be flat, then you're going to see that it's important.
Thank you. I like your, because you repeat this several times, that make it as a way of life. So that is quite challenging. Normally we don't see capital market, sophisticated investors, rich people, high net worth, to see or to invest in Islamic capital market, sukuk, whatever it is, and then making it as the way of life. I believe that this is the narrative that we can craft so that this element of ESG, social needs and whatnot may come into the picture. So rather than purely driven or mainly driven by the money. Yes, please.
That's why we have to be more flexible in our offering. Our wakaf based bank for the time being only allow us to do wakaf on the profit, on the distribution. We have to be more flexible. If we can be more flexible, then the sphere of people coming in will be bigger. For example, I'm a lecturer. I'm going to UK for my PhD for 4 years, for example. I have a home. So I might want to benefit from, I don't have to pay tax, so that for 4 years away from home, I can do temporary wakaf. So that house become wakaf to Madya Agama for 4 years. When I come back, I take back the house, for example. That facility that we have. In the wakaf framework that we have, if we can, that thing that we need to discuss further, how to be more flexible. Okay, say for example, I invest in scoop, for example. I invest in scoop. Instead of only using the dividend, the coupon payment as a wakaf, I can allow for more flexibility, for example. I can, even the principal can be wakaf from, say for example, I invest in medium term of 4 years, for example. 2 years wakaf, 2 years is not wakaf. Okay, so can we have a lot of flexibility in terms of wakaf? That needs a lot of regulation, consideration, taxation, all shit that we have in the world. We have to streamline on how for us to be more flexible. If we can do that, they can open a lot of doors for others to come in.
Thank you very much, Prof. Hassan.
Prof,
Yeah,
I know
one is
trying to actually, but just to add to that flexibility, which is also something we are exploring, not just wakaf, think about zakat. Zakat is always meant for the 8 segments. Okay, but what we are saying right now, and this is one I say I hope I can get the support of my SAC chairman there. What we are exploring is what happens to the poor people who are living by the areas or the sea, for example, that is affected by rising sea levels. You want to build sea walls, right? But no one's going to incur that. It's too expensive. Where do you protect these people? So maybe whether it's wakaf ke, zakat ke, or any part of ISF, can it be rerouted towards those or projects? But flexibility or innovation is required. I'm not saying we go out of the parameters of Sharia compliance, but how do we work with it?
So I think these are things first of all, I have to cut it short because innovation is definitely something that must always be there in our blood throughout so that we can further grow. Now, Jasri, semua orang cakap pasal capital market. We are talking about capital market, high net worth and whatnot. Now we come to takaful, which is, takaful, Jasri, very noble, tabaruk, ta'awun and whatnot. Masuk syurga, we go to Jannah kind of thing, right? And in view of, we compare the numbers also, Jasri, capital market banking, of course, takaful is smaller, but without denying the fact that, mashallah, takaful is very beautiful concept. And definitely Islamic social finance is not new at all. So, can I get your comment on this in terms of how then do you see that this is something that can bring takaful better? I mean that to play quite more significant role, for example. Over to you, Jess.
Thank you, Prof. Rusni, Prof. Adnan, and also Puan Syarifatul Haniza, professors, doctors, and scholars in the hall. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yes, I think for takaful, we have crossed 40 years of our existence in Malaysia, especially. But I think I would like to say that we don't want to be left behind in terms of contributing to strengthen the Islamic social finance. And to me, this is one of the big aims as how we began. That intention remains until now, but as we progress, initially as alternative to insurance, I think at the initial years a lot of takafulization of insurance. We started with that, but as we move, now we existed for 42 years. I'm happy to say that a lot of refinements and improvements happened, and more clear and glaring to say that the takaful is, of course, an instrument part of the Islamic social finance. Reason being, the essence of takaful, we promote the risk sharing among the participants, and the intention is to help one another in the event of something which is impactful happening to their life, that disrupt to the life stability, sometimes the continuation of what they have been enjoying to the level even deeper, where someone lost dependence on someone else who has been enabling them to have a good life. So that concept where participants agree one another with a noble intent of help the other participants is actually very similar to the basic intention of why we need to fork out the zakat and why the wakaf has been established in the past. Probably the difference will be zakat and wakaf are widely founded based on divine defined intention, whereas takaful is what pre-agreed and continue to evolve based on the objective, which I said went through the capitalization of insurance. Hence, we see at it probably not equal, but I believe this will be better and better as now even the concept of agreeing for specific and predefined objective, but the participants' risk fund generates surplus. Originally, that surplus goes back to the participant. One of what have been invented by the industry players now to allow the customers to even donate, and donation goes back to zakat and wakaf to a certain extent, of course, based on the options of the participant. One. Another one, I think the evolution goes to also to promote or encourage customers to donate some portion of the claims, right, that they can define it to go to charitable organization. In certain circumstances, goes to Majlis Agama, be it for wakaf purpose, or also for a dedicated purpose like mercy or the other charitable intention. So what is also another part of takaful where the concern seems to be a bit commercial, where we have the manager as compared to zakat and wakaf, we have Majlis Agama in most circumstances. But for takaful, we need to have somebody which is accountable, well grounded on the defined principle, which we call it ethics or regulations and all those things. But the key is that commercial is something I would say for that part also to be continue to evolve, where we can see many takaful operators now not only they pay zakat, even some pay more than what they are obliged to, but they are also allocating some of their income from the fees paid through their responsibilities in managing the risk fund successfully to the level of generating the surplus, but they are also allocating the CSR. So that goes back to the society and supports the social finance. So all in all, takaful is not meant to just be prioritizing generating the profit, but more of refining the insurance to the level which is more impactful to the life of the society as addition to the traditional social finance of zakat and wakaf. So that is in essence.
Okay. Moving forward, for example, MTA Hijrah, right? Takaful, what we call it, broader ta'awun. Do you see that opportunity is something that you can push the boundary or the takaful, for example? Yeah. Then we are talking about maybe some portion of surplus to be contributed. Professor also talking about some portion of investment also be contributed. Can have much bold, innovative, product that we can contribute more basically for Islamic social finance, social needs, be it.
Yep, definitely I think we are aligned. The industry as a whole has been framing a lot of initiative to gear up takaful to be more aggressive in contributing to the society. That is for sure. So we can see that in 2019, after a lot of other steps even before that, so we came out with VBIP that founded on 5 pillars around building the capacity to deliver maqasid syariah.
Are you confident that in 5 years' time, takaful through VBIP, through Hijrah and whatnot will be there?
Yes. We are very, very certain about progressing towards that. But I think the key step now is to benefit through widening the utilization of the risk fund for the purpose that probably currently we are a bit limited because the predefined reason for a payout from the risk fund is quite cast in stone, that very similar, not exactly the same, very similar with the risk that is defined in insurance. But by having ta'awuniyah, I think collectively between the participants and the operators may agree to allow circumstances where the risk fund could also be channeled for the purpose that is not specifically said but have to be with a certain parameters. For example, in 2020, when the whole country probably not, of course, not also exceptional to other countries where we had COVID pandemic. So the impact to the societies was very tremendous, where many couldn't go for work, many even lost jobs. So the takaful companies, a few have very big surplus, but they cannot use that surplus to help people because it is not part of the risk as defined in the contract. So hence, we get stuck there. We cannot cross the line because takaful operator is just managing based on the pre-agreed terms. So I think the Tawuniyah came very timely to widen the utilization of the risk fund when it comes in the form of surplus, so that we could together agree what are the boundaries where we could have beyond just participants. So probably the certain segment who are underprivileged, who are unfortunate due to something, flood or whatever common to our situation. That for sure will increase the awareness, the trust and the confidence with, and in effect it will expand the size of takaful capacity.
That is very interesting. That is very important point. Because I believe there's a lot of opportunity here. Okay.
It is.
Of course, comparatively speaking, but I believe because of this kind of what we call it phase that we are moving forward, there's a lot of opportunities, but we would like to have more bold, if I were to say, steps forward, initiatives. Yeah. Particularly from takaful, and then having Cik Asri, HLMT and any other takaful providers in Malaysia, I would say that this is where the opportunities are, in front of us. Inshallah, we'd like to see more bold initiatives and whatnot. We unfortunately have about 10 minutes, Professor. So you want to comment? 1 minute. 1 minute before we open to the Q&A.
First of all, takaful is very social already. Areas lain, people dispute whether banking fulfill of house syarat atau tidak. People love discussion, but you cannot doubt on takaful. By itself is sound. That's the first one. Second one is the mindset has to somehow shift a little bit. For example, last how many months I remember, we have a conference in Saudi Arabia about using zakat money for micro takaful and also contribution. So the was a big debate on that. I put a paper on that particular part. I still believe until now, even though the paper was rejected. I mean, there are 3 paper put. They don't reject, but they say a lot of study need to be done further. Can we use the zakat contribution as a contribution to protect the poor, micro takaful, asnaf and everything? A lot of debate on that matter. So I think I still feel that that's a good thing to do. I still feel, even though justification needs to be stronger from Sharia point of view, but it's a lot in that place. Can you imagine? We cover how many people? Okay, and we never know. That may happen, that may not happen. That the subjectivity that has some Sharia discussion come to it. In my opinion, it is about wrong, so it should be allowed for that particular point of view. That can help a lot of the needy people without having to give them money, but they rest assured anything happen to you, you are covered by the kafir for that. I mean, that's not thing that needs to be done.
Thank you
That
very
is
much.
not just broader kafir. Broader kafir.
Yeah, I think this is timely because we have, I think as a researchers and academician, we have studied a lot of situations we come across of which the P40 asnaf, for example, when the father or the only sole breadwinner pass away, and many of the children may not be able to go to school. So that's timely, strongly, and that urgently we need to be thinking about how can takaful provide for them so that the children can continue to go to school. I think we have been there. Okay, what we call it, sorry. Actually, I have prepared 3 sets of questions. but it seems that only one round, then time is already there, you know. But I believe that the panels have covered many aspects, okay? And I don't want to, what we call it, deny everyone to ask questions. So maybe we can allow 2-3 questions at least. Okay, we combine the questions. If there is any, please. Or if there is any questions in Slido. Yes, Prof. Amir. Can I have raise of hand? Prof. Amir, one. Anyone else would like to ask question? Okay. Yes, brother. Number 3. We allow 3 questions first. No? Oh, it's too early, President said. Everyone are kind of not asking questions. But I hope, I thought that we are already warm here. Yes, Prof. Amir, please.
Thank you, all the panelists. I think it's very good discussion in the early morning. I think when we talk about Islamic social finance, the most important thing is the implementation and the impact on the ground. I think in Malaysia, what I noticed is that we are more better in terms of promoting concept, designing like Maqasid, BBI, everything. But in Indonesia, if we compare our practices, they are more bold and innovative. That's why I think, yes, we do have like Project Hassan, all the effort and initiatives taken by Wakaf Anur and some other NGOs. But I think if we compare our implementation and the impact of the society, in Indonesia they are more innovative and bold. And this is not conducted by the sophisticated investors and whatnot. They have idea, but they implement it well and they test on the ground. So my question is, why it's very difficult or hard to see the implementation, the impact and the scale in Malaysia? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next question.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. My name is Khairil. So my question is Khairil.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is basically, I know the people in the industry is very passionate in terms of coming up with innovations and inventions, but at the other end of the spectrum, we have people or the end consumers, the receptiveness of those people, and sometimes even towards certain extent, they are not ready for Islamic finance because they see like Islamic finance as a must to conventional, still that kind of thinking. And how do we move away from that kind of thinking? And also when it comes to social finance, they see it as rather than higher purpose driven. So how do we remove the stigma and also change that kind of mentality? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Last question, yeah, Hussein. And then afterward, the panelists will address the questions.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hussein, Prudential BSN. I thought I don't want to talk about micro takaful today, but we are already looking at the reality of things, right? So Malaysia is very strong in terms of concepts because we want to make everything proper. So we put it under category and concepts and technicality, and takaful has always been on segregated funds, very differentiated. And in ProBSN, when we do micro takaful, we wanted it to be like realistic. So we have takaful is takaful tijari, right? It's profitable profit. It's tijari, but the fundamental is ta'awun, right? But people realize this. Pusat Zakat knows this. We get profit, right? So we in ProBSN, we do community model. We started our micro takaful without surplus, even without wakalah fee, but it's not sustainable, right? So what I'm talking about is also moving forward, reality prevails. It's daruriyah, it's health product. So the country is also talking about, base health universal. Affordability is a reality. The sentiment is being spoken about, right? So all this is opportunity for us to have a model that is realistic, not so much being tied to, the concept or the technicality of contract. So where I'm heading to is, how is our appetite in terms of innovation when it comes to Sharia scholars? Because in the Sharia team talking to the actuarial and pricing, my point is, to a certain extent, our segregated fund model is not cost efficient, making takaful inferior to insurance, right? So, yeah, my question is not to be taking a back step. Not going behind in terms of innovation, but are we open to, for example, having accounting segregation only, where all the expenses can be charged into one fund, right? No surplus for the participants. So ownership issue is also a question. So we might need to move away from only technicality from Sharia perspective, having the intent and the objective very much aligned with, ta'awun maslahah maqasid. So
Thank you very
is
much.
that appetite is being open? Is that appetite can be accepted? Because takaful also is at a lower level, but you are talking about now health products affordability is a mass market product.
Thank you very much. Okay, so okay, 3 questions. So I open for any of the panel to address any of the question. Please, Takafu first.
Yep, thanks, Prof. Probably for a few questions I noted. I think first, Prof. Amir mentioned about the intention to see more aggressive and speedy implementation of Islamic social finance in Malaysia. I would like to say, yes, we want the same thing, but I think we need to ground ourselves to the reality that we have to be sustainable. So we just don't want to embark on something that couldn't survive. So that will erode the trust to the industry. I think we need to strike the right balance. But probably just to share my observation in Takaful specific, I'm not trying to encroach another area. Takaful, I think we are far ahead than Indonesia. Even I think their presence over there now is still a window to insurance. Then I think the different scale of funding and other kind of help among the community probably it's outside what I mean by Takaful's perspective. So that's my response to that. On the other part where stigma about Takaful that we prioritize profit, again I think as I shared on the slide earlier, yes, we have 2 parts of it. One is the pure mutual cooperation confining to the risk fund, but of course we need to make sure that the managers are able to continue to manage and deliver the main objective. So whatever seems to be profit is, I think, even if you look at the surplus sharing, we cannot take more than what we share with the participants. And in actual fact, if you see around 11 family takaful operators and 4 general takaful operators, a few even haven't paid dividend to their shareholders. So to look at it that we prioritize dividend, I don't think it's correct. Then the challenge on that is actually awareness. So we need to do more and go to the grounds, collaborate with the organization that could help shout out louder to the society, because the penetration rate remains around 20% for a few years. We need to have a trajectory of that. The concern about wanting to see a much more impactful model that could strengthen sustainability, I think very timely you raise it, because Ta'awiniyah is trying to open it up. Leverage on it, it was just issued in November. Even I think in the policy document, it mentions about the blended model, the ta'awuniyah with zakat, with wakaf, with musyarakah. It gives the opportunity. Just industry needs to venture into much clearer structure, again with the intention of making it sustainable. But just for sharing, even before ta'awuniyah is adopted and applied, many operators have already ventured into offering surplus as a source to connect between the modern Islamic social finance through takaful into the wakaf and zakat and infak. Even for the organization that I'm with now, we have AIE Penyala Harapan, where we recently collaborated with IIUM to fund 20 degree students with a cost committed close to 2 billion. So that is an example of how we want to do things more and more and be closer to the society, not only confined to what is stated in the policy contract about the risk. Thanks.
I guess we have done a lot, as in takaful and whatnot, but maybe it's time for you to kind of shut up or what you are doing. I think the shut up is important. Yeah? And it will be balanced between you are boasting rather than shouting out the good things that you are doing. Okay? Puan Sharifatu, if anything you would like to comment on that, and maybe if I can ask you to maybe respond to some of the questions, for example, Wakaf Roundtable, and in terms of what are the role of ICM to develop Wakaf asset, particularly on the SRICs, and maybe a bit of makasih that from the questions, there are 4 questions there. Yeah, makasih performance measurement. Yeah, there is a Wakaf-based smart suku, for example. Kind of broad, I'm so sorry. If we have one whole day session, we will be able to address 1 question each. But unfortunately, we have to end soon, within a few minutes. Yes, please.
I'll try and cover everything, maybe a little bit, a few touch points. But I think if I may start, I just follow up comment on what Asri was saying about you have to balance sustainability. I think one word we carefully use always is purposeful profit. So the thing is that we also have many stakeholders in the system. It's one thing to want to be innovative, and we have product pushing on one hand, and we do shout outs and awareness, but there are different balances that has to come to an equilibrium. So I think to answer Prof. Amir and a few of the other attendees here, can I just say, sometimes I think we're too hard on ourselves. Malaysia has always been known to be a thought leader. Yes, no doubt some of it can be concept, but I think to be fair, we have led a lot of initiatives. So the responsibility along the capital continuum is everybody, from the investor to the issuer to the stakeholders. And it takes all sorts to build up traction or scale. To compare ourselves to Indonesia, just to take that for example, Indonesia's governance structure is very different. Malaysia's governance structure is very different for ISF. So to put it on apple to apple, there are different hurdles, there are different stumbling blocks. But at the same time, if you put everyone in a room, which is what we found the success with our Wakaf Roundtable at the first round, sometimes I think we like to talk among ourselves. I mean, if you look at this audience, everyone here, if not all, already knows all the concepts, takaful, capital market, and banking. But what we found when we did our roundtable, and we brought SIRCs into the conversation, and the only people in the capital market was SC, we found the conversation was very different. When we went on our roadshows telling them that we actually had a budget announcement where 100 million was announced for allocation to ECF P2P and projects that was related to those under SIRC, you may not believe it, but not a single one of them even understood what ECF and P2P was. So can you imagine how you even build scale and traction if your familiarity is not there? Not because they are not knowledgeable, but it's not within your ecosystem. So I think it's our responsibility also from all the parts that that conversation happens, because we found after that round table, the interest and the need to understand where capital market can be used as a bridge was already taking its first baby steps. It is now taking that. I think that's important. But we also have to balance innovation with orderly markets. And I think that's where we are careful when you come up with concepts. The infrastructure, the trust, there must not be trust deficit. In Islamic social finance, where we found, especially in Sedekah, I mean, wakaf aside, I mean, that can be different. The trust deficit is very high, which is why we are actually trying to introduce a social exchange, because that's when donations can come into a transparent, reputable, regulated ecosystem. So if you don't have, because half the time, I mean, I don't know, all of us may be doing a QR system and say, I wakaf 10 ringgit every morning, but are you aware where that money goes? So people want to know that. So if there is a reputable and established governance structure for it, it can help. People just want to know, is my money going to good? You want to do good while making good. And returns, I think there was a question about how you balance profits and returns. That's why I think we started out with the baby steps of distribution being allocated to wakaf projects. We're mindful that it should go bigger, for sure. But we want to actually tell people that if you start by doing good, by giving part of your dividend to a wakaf project and you see where it's going, you then get more awareness on the wakaf, for example. Not everybody knows what wakaf is all about. Not everybody knows where it can be done. We are in an ecosystem where you and I understand each other. But if you go out to even a B40 or M40, who may not even bother about this as a part of their life, and I'm just looking for my day-to-day survival, I will not see where it's getting me. So sometimes I think we are blamed, we should blame ourselves and look within ourselves as, don't assume everyone knows what we do. Don't assume everyone thinks like what we do, because we don't know. I mean, in capital markets, we are the biggest culprits for that. We assume everyone knows what the stock exchange is. No. Everyone associates stock exchange with the rich. It's not. Nobody knows that you can buy a share for 100 ringgit. Not everybody knows that. So I think that needs to be done. So I think purposeful profit, balance, and innovation, the balancing of it, I think that's where we can go towards it. A lot of good stuff here, but we all have a role to play in it.
Yeah, that's very important. Thank you. It is not individuals, but rather than, the takeaway is that everyone have to be in and on the board, inshallah. Prof. Hassan.
Indonesia part, I mean, there are two things. We say that necessity is the mother of all innovations. I mean, necessity is the mother of all innovation. I mean, you cannot decline to say that in Indonesia, the need for helping people are more than in Malaysia. I bagi contoh, kita pergi kat UAE, kita cakap tentang micro, dia kata apa micro ni? Because they don't understand micro. Micro to them is SME to us. Because the situation, and that is what the thing. In Indonesia, I mean, people know that there are more than 270 million people. Okay? So the scale of contribution is higher, and the needs and necessity are also higher, and that's bring a lot of innovation in between. Not an excuse for us, but that one of the reasons. That's the first one. Second one, we talk about issue of banking being seen to be mimicking conventional. I think that's that discussion. I mean, will continue, but has passed over time already. Okay? And orang dah pergi ke mana-mana, dia cari train dia, apa nama berapa. I mean, that's gone already in my opinion. They asked me to debate, I said, buang masa hari ni. I'm no longer there. I've done that 10, 15 years ago. Kalau dah ingat lagi, kita dengan PPIM dan sebagainya. I've done that 5, 15 years ago. Saya tak pernah, to me, waste of time. Second one. Third one, in terms of takaful, a lot of things need to be done in takaful actually. We look at takaful ni, dia sometimes we look at in between. Nak kata komersial sangat pun tidak, charity pun tidak. So kadang-kadang kita confuse in between. Makhluk apa yang kita buat sekarang? Which we need to refine further what is the thing. But in whatever situation that we do, we don't forget about the basic thing of takaful, which is assistance one another. That is the most important thing.
Ada soalan untuk saya bawa ke Mr. Ken. Tak boleh nampak macam saya.
Which one? Beyond the traditional Maqasid Syariah framework, what new ethical framework do we need to develop impact-driven asset like green sukuk?
It's maqasid. To me, it's maqasid. Maqasid covered everything. My worry, as mentioned in the SSC, in one time I was asked to talk to the governors of DCC one time. I'm representing UAE. People talking about all those ESG. I said, my worry is very simple thing. We forget our route that we have. The maqasid is stronger than anything else. If we rely on that, we can go further. Develop the maqasid, bring the abstract of the maqasid into real, measured, and quantifiable. You can see wonders of Islamic finance.
Thank you very much, Prof. Osman.
That's what I do.
I would like to conclude by asking one question each to what we call it, the panelists. One word or one sentence. Prof. Osman, one word to describe the future of Islamic social finance.
Brilliant and excellent.
Thank you very much. Chair Ashri, okay, is it takaful a true Islamic social finance tool?
Yes.
Great. Okay.
Absolutely,
Puan Sharifatul, one bold policy step to grow Islamic social finance.
Innovation and trust.
That is a very, very powerful words from the expert panelists for us to bring back home and then do our necessary job. Because definitely it takes all of us to have the conversation, to continue the conversation, to really put our effort in so that we will be able to see the bright future of Islamic social finance. To the academicians, because I'm over academicians, research on wakaf, for example, in Islamic finance, Islamic capital market, the applied theory or the applied part of it is very, very limited. The study have shown that less than 30 papers appear in Scopus on wakaf Islamic finance. The real one, the applied one. We're not talking about the theory. The theory is already there, hundreds of the papers, but now this is where we would like to see more of our contribution. And as mentioned by the panelists, this work, we will not be able to see the bright future of Islamic social finance without coordinated work of every single one of us. By that, I hope that inshallah, okay, may all of us will be blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all our points, discussions and whatnot will be showered by barakah by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and inshallah everyone will be very excited to move forward, and inshallah thank you very much to all panelists, Prof. Dr. Aznan, the MJ Asri, as well as Puan Sharifatul Haniza. We end by Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to our panelists and moderator for that enlightening discussion. As our gratitude and appreciation, I would like now to invite Professor Dr. Romzi Rosman, Dean of IIBF, to present a memento to our panelists and
Sebelum itu
moderators.
minta maaf, we take up about a few minutes of our next speakers. They are already here. Thank you.
We start with, please welcome Professor Dr. Aznan Hassan, eminent scholar, IIM, Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance, Chairman Sharia Advisory Committee, Securities Council Malaysia. Next, please welcome Madam Sharifatul Haniza Sain Ali, Executive Director, Islamic Capital Markets, Securities Commission Malaysia. And next, please welcome Encik Muhammad Asri Omar, CEO of AIA Public Takaful Berhad. And And last but not least, please welcome Professor Datin Dr. Rosmi Hassan, and Scholar IM, Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance, IIBF. Thank you very much. Bisa kita kumpulkan pasti untuk gambar. Risa. Thank you very much. Get back to your seat. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Dr. Ramzi. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have to moving on. We now proceed to panel discussion number 2, integrating fintech and blockchain for transparent and scalable Islamic social finance. Please welcome to the stage our moderator, Dr. Rizal Muhammad Noor, Assistant Professor from KLCC, IIM, and our panelists are Khairul Nisa Ismail, CEO of Sedania Assalam Capital, and next, Mr. Ilham Sabki Baharun, Treasurer and Chief of Sustainability Aeon Bank, Malaysia Berhad, and Madam Roslina Ramli, Strategic Advisor of Koha Islamic Digital Sendiri Berhad. But before we start, let me introduce a little bit of our information about our moderator. Dr. Rizal Muhammad Noor is an assistant professor at IIM and head of the Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity with over 20 years of experience spanning academia, industry, and fintech innovation. He is a leading expert in blockchain, AI, IoT, secure cloud system, and digital finance, with academic training from Kent State University, Johns Hopkins University, and IIM. And now I would like to pass the session to Dr. Rizal. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you very much, Mr. Joe. I have a short pantun I would like to share. For our panelists, datang Sedania Aeon Koha sekali. Experts in fintech with purpose so pure. Digital Islamic finance is the way they tell me. Smart contracts, amanah, and fairness we ensure. Okay. So I'm gonna introduce our speakers today. Our first panel here has been shaping Islamic digital finance landscape long before fintech became a buzzword. Khairul Nisa Ismail, CEO of Sedania, that's her, Assalam Capital, is very much the engine behind many of the innovations we see in Islamic fintech today. With over 25 years of experience in both fintech and aviation, yes, guys, roles in AirAsia and Malaysia Airlines. So whether it's planes or platforms, she knows exactly how to get things off the ground. She's a law graduate from Oxford Brookes University. She has led development in Sharia compliant fintech, commodity trading platforms, and digital innovation and hibah platforms. Right? Under her leadership, over 95 financial institutions was partnered with her company, and she has won many awards. Right? Basically, the fintech version of a trophy cabinet. All right. Our second speaker is Muhammad Idham. Idham Sabri. Right? Sabki. He has been navigating fintech, a financial world for over 25 years. He has seen interest rates go up, go down, sideways, and sometimes just misbehave. She is the treasurer of Aeon Bank, a role he held since June 2023. He's the treasurer, means he's the person who actually understands where the money goes, hopefully, right? Before joining Aeon Bank, Idham served in Bank Negara Malaysia, Hong Leong Islamic Bank, Executive Vice President at Maybank Islamic. So I would say if Malaysian financial systems were a TV series, he has appeared in all the important seasons, right? So he's been around. Masters of Science in Wealth Management, Singapore Management University, and Bachelor of Science in Economics from Warwick. So, you know, he can talk about money in a calmness like none of us have. You know, when we talk about money, we always nervous. The next speaker is Puan Rusvina Ramli. She brings with us 3 decades of experience in finance, investment banking. She has seen the industry evolve from paper form all the way to blockchain. Right? She has been leading advisor roles in ethical, Sharia compliant digital finance, helping tech companies build solutions where innovation and integrity go hand in hand. Right? Her thought leadership has placed her as the forefront of conversation on fintech, blockchain, and the Islamic digital economy. Right? A frequent speaker at global and regional conferences, that's why she's here today. And also reminding us why, reminding the world why we are leaders in halal and ethical finance. Okay, quite a lengthy introduction. Okay, so before we start, let me define a bit about fintech or set the mood game, right? Fintech use technology to improve, automate, and reinvent financial services, right? My definition, I would also like to say, it doesn't just reinvent, but sometimes disrupt. So we evolved from fintech 1.0, where those goes from 1950s to 2008. We start with digitizing existing financial systems, right? So Visa, ATM, FedWire, these are all fintech 1.0. And then we move to fintech 2.0. We have platforms, like what these people are doing, right? Mobile finance, e-wallets, P2P, right? Neo banks, like Aeon Bank, right? And then later we're going to talk and touch a bit about programmable blockchain native finance. This is 2020 onwards. Okay, so we have 3 sets of questions like the previous panel, hopefully. We'll start with Puan Khairul Nisa, right? Fintech adoption is reshaping how financial services reach underserved community, sometimes faster than we can update our apps, right, on our phones. From Sejania's perspective, how has digitalization improved transparency, efficiency, and trust in Islamic social finance, especially in microfinancing and digital onboarding, right, making our lives easier?
I have a slide. Just to Assalamualaikum, good morning, well blessed Saturday. Okay, as we are professionals, like this morning, the professors are saying you go pasadani. As we are more like, well, I'm more health freak, like go for running and all that. So we were joking that this morning, right? Oh, it started early. Oh no, we missed our 10-kilometer walks or 5-kilometer runs. So this is our power health this morning, inshallah. Okay, just a quick update about Sedania As-Salam for those who are not aware about us, who we are. We are a Islamic fintech company. We are part of a public listed company called Sedania Innovator Berhad. Sedania As-Salam very much focus on sustainable consumer technology and digital Islamic innovations. I've known these people for so long, so we try to collaborate in some of the solutions. Predominantly, our focus is mostly on iSFIS commodity trading platform, which is the first in the world that use digital commodities. We use underlying assets such as telecommunication, bandwidth, airtime. We are exploring solar, and inshallah, we're looking at carbon credits. My job is to suck up all the digital commodities out there to become the underlying asset that we can use here in Malaysia and globally, inshallah. And we have the privilege to work together with Dr. Aznan, who is our Shara chairman. We have a dedicated Shara committee to help us on that. Apart from that, we also have something that I will share with you a little bit more on microfinancing. It's through our Go Halal financing program, where we enable digital Islamic digital lending environment through digital onboarding, digital core banking, as well as offering a real-time trading, straight-through processing to enable microfinanciers to offer 24/7 financing access to community at large. Yeah, and as mentioned by Rizal, we also do a bit of digital Islamic banking modules, and one of that is, we have Hibah solution, which we are more of a technology provider. Okay, just to share with you about what your questions. Yeah, next slide, please. So these are some of our clients. I just want to share a little bit about non-banks. These non-banks actually started just during the COVID time. As you know, COVID time, everything shuts down. Even the typical money lenders in Malaysia had to shut their business because they can't open because of MCO. But what we have done together with some of these non-banks is that we enable a digital lending environment, but in an Islamic way. So companies like Grab, Atome, JCL Credit, even Eon Credit Services, they are thriving during COVID days because people need accessibility of capital, cash, and we enable that through a digital onboarding, which is through the mobile apps, through website. People do not need to even sign a physical agreement. Everything done on digital journey. Even our digital commodity trading platform was done 24/7. So this is the beauty that we are enabling microfinancing capital during the COVID days, and it is a success factor till today and inshallah moving forward, because we have customized different products in order to provide social finance products. Yeah. So next slide is just an example. So last month, we have released this press release. This is as a result of that COVID, whereby we have fueled about community growth, about 2 billion Go Halal financing, which we enable. This is not our own funding, but we enable the financial services accessibility of about 2 billion to the geek community during the COVID days until today. So one of the great examples is Grab. Yeah, next slide. So with Grab, our mission was very simple. We launched Grab Financial Services. With Grab Financial Services, we launched Grab PFI, which is Islamic financing accessibility for cash, to all their Grab drivers and riders only at first. Because Grab riders, they need access funds. They do not have salary pay slip, as you know. They probably just work with Grab part-time gig and just get there. So what we did with Grab is that Grab actually provide a scoring system which is based on all the community that actually basically, if you are driving yourself at the house, your experience is 5-star, 3-star, 2-star, whether the person is friendly or not. So their scoring is based on those scoring by the consumer. So wherever the Grab drivers and riders, when they apply financing, they apply through their app. You will not see in the app because we are passengers. So for the Grab app, if you are the driver, right, I'm sure some of you are part-timers, you probably see it, that you can apply it in less than 3 minutes in terms of application, in terms of approval, the instant trading, as well as disbursement straight to the Grab wallet. So the beauty about this, we have launched about 4 different products, which is cash financing, iPlanning, which is emergency cash, and we did for merchant financing for them to do to roll their funds if they don't have enough cash to basically buy some of their machines, and especially for the nasi lemak merchant owners who wants to buy some of the resources, they probably need to roll their funds. And the latest product we have launched with them is Grab Umrah. So we are instilling the social financial inclusion in their whole ecosystem already. And to be honest, the regional team of Grab in Singapore, they don't believe in Islamic in the first place. But we managed to convince them and say that Islamic product is the way regardless of whether you're Muslim or not. And Grab Financial Service is the most, in terms of this product, all this product is one of the most reputable, profitable products for all the Grab regional services right now. So, and the latest example that we did was Grab Umrah. And this Grab Umrah financing is something that any of the Grab drivers, well, I went to see them personally, and we have flown about more than 1,000 plus of Grab drivers and riders with their families for Umrah, with the Umrah financing offered by Grab, which they pay a year before they fly. And one of them is this, I don't know whether if you're local, you probably know this group called X Factor, Danny X Factor. He is a Grab driver, he experienced that, and he said nobody thought that it's possible for them to do Umrah without financing. And we did that. And this is some of the video that we actually shared with some of our Grab community. So what?
Application pada pemandu untuk pergi ke Umrah. Satu lagi, kalau siapa pemandu macam kita yang dapat peluang ini daripada Grab, ambillah peluang ini. Jangan pasang peluang ini. Tak semua orang boleh dapat. Ibaratnya apabila ada yang dapat peluang ini, anda macam dah diterima untuk jadi pegang umur. Kalau saya dapat peluang lagi sekali, insyaAllah saya akan sampai ini. Okey? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So it is not to say that a lot of people say, oh, nak pergi Umrah, I cannot take financing. But I think for this sort of community, we are giving them an extension of opportunity for them to perform the pilgrimage and for them to basically have the opportunity to bring their family. And we have flown more than 1,000 and they bring it together with their parents, with their children. And this is because they are part of that community of Grab to have that accessibility. And apart from this Grab, we also encourage them to take takaful protection, to do zakat, to do as part of the whole composition for Grab community. So we take baby steps, but this is all about education and awareness for the community that we have to do. So this is some of my examples, on digital onboarding, how we actually include some of the. That's why I said this morning was very much of theory. Mine is very much of practicality and execution of what has been done in the community out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pakai Yunisa. Again, I like it that you're doing a lot for inclusive finance, which I would like to also ask Idham Zaki. Inclusive finance is really important. It's what drives the nasi lemak store. My favorite store has to be alive, right? So in that case, as a digital Islamic bank, how does Aeon Bank see fintech as the tool to scale inclusive finance and keep my nasi lemak store alive?
Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Doc. I think how does fintech keep your nasi lemak store alive? So we are a fintech first, the second in the bank, right? So Aeon Bank is the first Islamic digital bank in Malaysia. How we do it is because it's actually in our own KPI by the central bank. So financial inclusion is a big KPI for us. But that doesn't mean that I open up my products just for that default category. I can't. siapa yang ada duit will not necessarily be the ones yang perlukan duit. Right? So I have to be the in-between. And we see that with our customers. Our main depositors are actually on the highest scale of the income level. But we need those kind of deposits to actually give out to all these makcik-makcik kia and also the abang-abang worker. So the products that we have in our fintech, our bank, is not just for the abang-abang workers, it's for everybody. So we need to be democratized, but at least the offerings that I give out will have to suit for their needs. Right? So just now we talked to the scholars, we talked to the regulators, the three of us up here, we are trying to make it happen. Right? So I'm also looking at sustainability, but why does we're not going to kid ourselves and say I'm going to be the greenest bank in Malaysia. No, I'm pink. Right? So your bank is not going to say that I'm going to be green, but in sustainability you've got E, S, and G. Governance is given because we're governed by the government, right? So I'm going to be focusing more on S, the social aspect of it, right? But some people, the discussion was that, but you're a profitable organization, how can you do all the S side? I'm not going to kid you. I'm paid to make money for my shareholders. That is the amanah that is given to me. Just because we're Islamic bank does not necessarily we're charity. People need to understand that, and even people in Islamic banks need to understand that you are working for the shareholders, but what you do will benefit those people that needs it, right? So I'm not going to be ashamed to say, even if I do Islamic social finance, I'm going to make money. There is money to be made from being good. So we need to put aside all the you need to do this just because of the pahala and whatnot. That is between you and God, right? But what we are on top and on the stage here are enablers to do that. You've done your research, the scholars have done it, the regulators have put aside the framework that we work on. We are the enablers, right? It's not necessarily that I am going to give up my own money, my own capital to help the makcik-makcik here. I'm going to use your money to help makcik-makcik here. Right? So I'm the conduit. Right? So let's not kill ourselves. I'm here for the money, that's for sure. Right? But I do want to do good.
Awesome. So, you have to make money, otherwise. Okay. Interesting concept there. Dunia and akhirat, right? You want to make money, but at the same time, So anyway, here's a question for Lucina Ramli. The global economy has grown from USD 4.5 trillion to over 100 trillion today, according to World Bank, right? Which is an impressive figure, but there's inequality, digital gaps, and environmental stress still refuse to take a vacation, and it continues to undermine equitable progress. Right? From your experience, how has improved digital access helped narrow this gap and bring more people into the economic mainstream?
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. Thank you so much to the organizers for inviting for me to share a little bit about my experience and my journey in this digital space. So before I go into the digital access, let's set the landscape in terms of what do you mean by digital access and connectivity. So for Malaysia, there are three key areas which international benchmarks look at. Number one, mobile penetration. So in Malaysia, we have 122%. What does that mean? More than our 36 million have access to mobile, meaning more than one carry multiple SIM card, right? 152%. When you look at internet penetration, we're anywhere between 97-98%. And also social media and penetrations in terms of through your mobile phone, how active are you? Also, anywhere between 80 to 90%. So that pretty much gives you a landscape of how Malaysia is in terms of a digital economy versus other countries in the world. Okay, knowing this lens, why are there still problems with inequalities? For me, I always start in terms of people's psyche, which is your Maslow hierarchy. So as you grow to become an individual, you come out from school, university, and then you eventually start a family and create that wealth. So key 3 things that you require in your life journey centers around FWP: access to financing, access to wealth solutions, and ultimately the change in mindset of how you also subscribe to protection, right? So when you talk about access financing, so alhamdulillah we have fintech players here. For us, it's all about the user interface, user experience, and ultimately the basic foundation is trust. Being able to know what your needs are throughout your journey in life and being able to customize our products and services based on your needs, right? So building that trust, when you look at access to financing, typically when you go to a bank, you require your salary slip, confirmation of you being able to work. But as the global economy evolves, we realize that inequalities are those with thin file customers who do not even have access, right? But they could be a fantastic nasi goreng seller on the street, my rumbling favorite burger tepi jalan, but they don't have access. So using transaction data provided by the point of sale system, for example, when you beli burger sekarang, because of our QR code and do it now, titik, you can already pay for your burger, right? That transaction data allows fintech companies like us to know sebenarnya what is your working capital. So from that working capital, that's how you have access to microfinancing, which is where Sedania comes in and Airbank. So that's alright, your access to financing, and of course you have the usual house and car, which everyone knows. Now wealth creation, right? So not a lot of people realize, and this is of course for Malaysia, we're extremely blessed. We have our Anama Saham Berhad and also our ETF to help support our retirement funds. But what about other countries? How do we allow them to have that access as well? And be able to also be part of this circular economy where distribution of wealth is equitable. It's not just for the wealthy, but also the people that are slowly working on the ground, toying the plantations, also being able to have access to financing. And that's where digitalization comes in. So from your point of sale system yang tadi you can already sales, you can actually allow the makcik yang tepi jalan to also think about her retirement fund, her savings for her children, and even maybe saving for Umrah. So automatic all that becomes into your specific nest egg or wallets that you can only slowly build, right? And these are the product bundlings that we as fintech companies are collaborating with financial institutions, the toko operators, as well as the government agency. And that's the final P. So FWP, access to financing, wealth, and also protection. So there's a lot of ideas. I love to bercerita, but I'll pass the mic back to Rizal.
Alright, thank you very much. It's always my concern about digital access because in zakat, a lot of the recipients actually can't afford smartphones. So we do want to push things to become more technologically advanced, but we do still have these limitations. I suppose it will change in the future. Okay, my next question is more we have always talked about transparency and governance, right? But let's face it, the processes are so manual when we talk about Islamic finance regulations. We sometimes require glasses to read them. Sometimes even the glasses requires a magnifying glass, and that magnifying glass requires a magnifying glass just to analyze and understand them. So my question to Puan Veronisa, right? What are the major gaps do you see today that fintech, AI, or blockchain can finally fix so that we can fix this problem? Things are complicated.
Let's try to uncomplicate them by asking the right questions, like what Lucina was saying. Always ask your partners and your clients, what do they want? Right? So even even for my clients, such as non-banks, they are quite ignorant about Islamic banking. But man, the moment they latch into Islamic finance or Islamic social finance, they are smarter than all of us because they know what their customers want when it comes to their ecosystem. So I think I work very closely with the likes of all these non-banks, such as I think this non-banks like Atome. Atome is one of the classic examples. They are from China. They are originally called advanced analytics. They use the entire data of your buy now, pay later experience behavior to collect as much data as they can. I think this is where we in Malaysia, we really need to make sure where your data points are being set up, where your data points are being collected in order to fill in the gaps. By doing that, you will know what your customers are looking at. So when we work with Atome was started off as a BNPL player, until now, of course now we have CCA, Consumer Credit Act, is coming in to basically make BNPL much more, much more regulated, and people are now not just having a spending fee, but now they have kind of pivoting into offering Islamic products under Atome ecosystem. One of them is Atome iCash. Because of this BNPL, they find out that a lot of people are not able to complete their payment or facilitate their payment. They actually offer facilities for them to say that, okay, do you need facilities to clear your BNPL services? They're smart. So then these customers, they say, oh my God, Islamic finance, Islamic cash, I've got to make sure I pay on time, I can complete the payment. That's the mindset. They actually put it on to the consumer. So more and more so that their BNPL customers have shifted to the Islamic iCash. Do you have the slides on So they have actually shifted that. And from that data, they actually say that, okay, from the Islamic iCash, maybe I offer Islamic card. So if you have an Atome app right now, they have a feature to say that you can now apply Atome Islamic card. I call it Islamic card because it's more or less like my baby too. So this card is actually a revolving credit card. It's not a credit card, it's not a debit card, it's not a prepaid card. It's a revolving credit card, which you are given a card based on your behavior, purchasing of BNPL, based on behavior of your financing, how much you pay on time or you pay earlier than the deadline. So they have started with iCard, which is it is a Visa merchant card. I have it here with me. When I got it, I applied it on the app, I got it. They gave me a 1,000 ringgit revolving credit for me to spend. And you know what, we launched this like a month ago, and currently we have seen 60,000 customers actually onboarded with this card. And they are literally using, when you look into the data, they're using it on daily transaction. Even to go to Pasar Malam, even to go to Speedmart, even to go to EconSafe. And they buy it in the middle of the month. So we know middle of the month duit tak cukup. So they use this as an opportunity for them to continue their living, and they will make the payment when they get the salary, and they can split. So this is where the financing agreement comes in. they will split the payment next 2 months, 3 months. Kalau diorang bayar awal, tak apa, it's okay, it's fine. So these sort of companies are breaking the barriers to find what are the ways to help their customers to have accessibility when it comes to Islamic social finance. I think the next product they're looking at, how can they embed insurance inside their whole solution? How can they embed the opportunity, like takaful protection inside this offering? So, like what Rosalina and I believe I'm saying is that understanding your data part, understanding your consumer is very important in order for you to build the whole product and build the whole solution for your consumer. So this is a classic example. And these people are from China, seriously, but after I have converted them to Islamic, they are more Islamic than any of us. And they are very, very paranoid if they say it's not going to the whole process of power. They are very, very paranoid. They are like, we must follow the whole process, man. So we have inculcated the whole idea of compliance in their head, especially to deliver this Islamic product to the consumer in Indonesia. And they're looking to replicate this in other parts of the world. I'm very proud of this partnership actually. So again, if you guys want to do this for your consumer, your own business, is understanding your consumer first. That is more important. So then you can close the gap and you can actually roll it. So that's how we do it. And this product we launched in less than 1 year. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Kairunisa. There were very important points there, but somehow all I got was that card with 1,000 ringgit credit. I need to apply that as well. Okay. This is for Brother Ilham Saki. As a digital bank, right? I'm pretty sure you would use automation and use a lot of data, particularly of your clients, right? Using algorithms, robots, AI, right? That works, never tires, never gossip, never hang out, right? Take a leave, right? Which everything goes to profit making now, which what you mentioned earlier. But how do you maintain this human touch, right? And Islamic, and Islamic for that matter, right?
I think the bots are agnostic, right? So they're not Muslims, they're not non-Muslims. The AI that we use, the machine learning that we use, we have to be careful on how we use them. Machine learning is quite straightforward. The data that we get from your transactions, like Vanessa said, is the way that we assess your credit. So alternative credit modeling is basically using other data than just your bank statement. Okay, so for an example, if I know you've been paying your handphone bills, right, on time, and the type of package that you have on your Maxis or Celcom, I can give you easily RM500 lah. That kind of microfinancing is available. Now, if I augment that with actual EPF statement, your bank statement, I could give you more. So, for an example also, and this is not done by your bank, kata macam WeChat, Tencent, how we had this conversation with them years ago. Your WeChat, right, it could be used to assess your credit. Why? The groups of people you are in there. Can you imagine? If your friends semua papa kedana, you're not going to get credit. If your friends geng basika, right, then you'll get better credit. So those are the things that you have to think about on what data you give out, right? So when open finance comes online a couple of years later, it will be good for all of us here, but with your consent. Meaning, if you consent me to have access to all your data with all the banks, I can give you better credit assessment. That's all it is.
Or worse,
Or worse, yeah? So, but you need to know that it's good for you to share. So not everything that you want to share, but if you're sharing with the banks, then you feel safer, we are regulated, right? So those are the things. AI, again, I want to mention that this is probably the next thing everybody's talking about AI. What we use AI in the bank currently is actually on our app, is to actually see your spending. Your spending habits, we give you insights on what you've been doing. So if you check on our app, your bank app will tell you, oh, you've been spending 150 ringgit, on groceries. Way to go, right? So, or you've been paying us, you just paid your gym membership, healthy lifestyle, right? So those are the things that we are looking at. But it's learning. AI needs to learn you. AI needs to have guardrails as well. We are an Islamic bank. I can't be saying, hey, let's have a beer on Friday. The AI needs to know that you have to have those guardrails. So it's not easy. AI also can melalut. AI can also hallucinate. You have to be careful, right? When you say, oh, I'm fully AI. You can't. So the human element has to come in to ensure the AI that you use is within the guardrails that you set, especially Islamic.
Thank you very much. AI has been a wonderful tool, and I understand companies basically can use this data to improve their services. So much so, sometimes I feel my insurance company know me better than my own family. At least they remember my birthday. Okay, my next question is for Rosina Ramli. When we talk about, Malaysia's population is basically aging faster, then our ability to remember our own passwords, right? There's pensions going around, the household is getting smaller, there's fewer children of taking care of, mak dan ayah at home, right? So what innovative digital solution can modernize this legacy planning, and your thoughts?
Thank you, Rizal. So I'm going to build on the ideas which was mentioned by Nisa as well as Idham. So going back to my FWP cycle, the F financing, W wealth, and then P is protection. You cannot reach perfection if you don't have wealth, because there's not enough disposable income for you to create, right? And then you don't have disposable income for you to actually buy insurance or even get into wealth solution. How do you even then go into wealth planning? Because there's nothing there. So it's that cycle that needs to be developed or co-created together with industry players. That's one. Two, access to financing yang Lisa cakap tu. How much can that be redeployed? Because a lot of us say, especially for the gig workers, kais pagi, makan pagi, kais petang, makan petang. Every day you need to go out to source income to put food on the table and pay for your house, rent or even mortgage, right? So looking at how we look at legacy planning, so I'm wearing my Koha digital hat. A little bit of background, it is a financial investment tool. Ultimately, it's a wealth management solution built on legacy planning. So from that wealth management tool, you key in all your assets, how much is in your EPF, how much is in your ESB, do you have assets that you have already either given or hibah from your parents or you built yourself. Is that house insured? You need to take that, right? Because otherwise then it falls into your financing gap. So we work with insurance, Takaful as well as banks. So the agency force in Malaysia is super strong. Hundreds and hundreds, thousands of people on the ground trying to facilitate that FWP journey with you. So knowing where you are at helps generate premiums and sales to that agent person. So macam Risa cakap tadi tu, his agents know more about him than his own family. Because you would know, bini satu ke bini dua?
Only one.
The agent will also know. So how do you co-create and also ultimately lead towards legacy planning? So now going back to protection for the your orang-orang yang sayang. So I give you a very good example as how this journey in terms of legacy planning has helped me. So Lina, I've got 3 kids, 2 boys, 1 girl. So naturally, when I run that faraid calculator, the boys will receive a lot more than my girl, right? So using the faraid calculator, I will know what that deficit is for her, and that is a hibah tool that I can then redistribute in support of balancing my asset allocation based on my hasrat, based on how I want my loved one to receive, right? But what's great about this journey is, because you know only 1/3 of your asset can be willed, 2/3 you have to follow faraid, right? How can you also co-create a living wakaf yourself? And you work together with your partners, your digital banks, because they have access to the micro SMEs, your AFNAs, that could potentially help from your legacy planning. So that is that continuation of circular economy which we want to try to develop, and there's so much ideas between the fintech companies and how can we collaborate with institutions that are here today in support of crystallizing these ideas together. Thank you.
Yes, awesome. Okay, we are actually running short on time to open questions and answers. But before that, let me get a really quick 2-minute answers from you guys. Particularly, right, we're talking about the future, blockchain on rails, fintech 3.0, right? There's no more money, there's just money on the blockchain, futuristic, right? Programmable money, stable coin, right? If you know, assets on the blockchain and suku. So on, you know, for each of the panelists, we'll start with Nisa. What are your thoughts of it?
Have you guys registered digital ID? Just put up your hand. Digital ID. That's your first fundamental. Digital ID is the start of everything in Malaysia, because it has started in India and started in the Middle East. So digital ID is the foundation of everything for you to even to do smart contracts in the future, even into open banking as well, which that's a different topic altogether. For me, is like a start from the beginning of digital ID is a start, and then you build it up from there, all the fundamentals. Coming back to whatever Rosina said, mentioned earlier on, that's very true, because we need to have a strong foundation and platform. So we fintech players are building up all the enablers, you know, all the platform. But so how do you come in and see how these enablers that we have, all the tools that we have given to you to put it up. Again, it's like knowing your customers. Even like for me, one of the projects that we are doing with one of the banks and also with one of the wakaf agency, we talk about how to, of course, the banks, the bank, they know what they want, but they want everything, you know? So we have to tell them that, okay, let's step back and go on phases. So, and they want, oh, I want blockchain, I want this, I want that, all in, right? You know? But we were saying that, take a step at a time. So what we did with one project is that is actually a portal site that we are looking to do, which encompasses on collection of wakaf, it encompasses on the calculation for your fidya, the calculation also for faraid calculator, for this particular FSI to actually navigate what the consumer want. But of course, when you want to execute that, when it comes to contracts, when it comes to implementation, that is something that is a different animal altogether, because sometimes kita ni tak faham. That's where the education and awareness, should we have a video, should we have relationship managers out there to speak, to convert to them. So kalau kita nak start apa-apa pun, at the end of the day, for me, it's like, get your Digital Agreements Act first. So your digital ID must come in order for you to facilitate your contracts and facilitate your product offering. So for me, that is how we have to start from the beginning. Yeah, then only we can actually build it up. So I know blockchain and all this AI and machine learning is all sexy words out there, but at the end of the day, it all comes to practicality. It all comes to what you need to incorporate into your whole product offering for your community. So that's our role to basically advise. So that's my part.
Thank you very much. It's interesting when you say, we have to have a platform for digital ID first. I see this, City of Zug in Switzerland actually started a blockchain-based digital identity, and now their post office, passport, banking are all done through the phone, even signing of documents. I think we're far from there yet. I mean, half of this room don't have digital ID yet. What's wrong with you guys? Right. We're going to move there. Okay? Brother, your thoughts?
Yeah, so what problems are you solving? There are many tools out there, blockchain, all these things, they're all sexy terms. But do you really need it to solve your specific problem? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. Like, we had a discussion with Impiana just now. Her client wants this, wants that, wants all the flashy stuff, AI, machine learning. Do you really need it? Right. So the fintech in us, do I need blockchain to do what I need to do in banking? The answer is not really at the moment. But do I need AI? Yes. So AI machine learning is important for us, but blockchain not necessarily yet. But it serves its purpose. If in Islamic social finance, you are giving out your zakat, you're putting out you're putting into a wakaf, you need to see where your money goes, the audit trail that goes, where the money follows, is best to use blockchain. That's one, right? So if we this discussion for the forum today is about Islamic social finance and how to use blockchain to help it, yes. Impact report, right? Impact reporting for all those kind of things is important. So is sexy and all, but does it solve your problem to begin with?
Thank you very much. One of the strengths of blockchain is auditability, right? And surprisingly, today, apparently terrorists, they don't like to use cryptocurrencies. You would think they would want to use cryptocurrencies, but they don't. In the beginning, it was really hard to trace them. But now that people understand the technology, now they can trace money. So now terrorists actually are saying, don't pay me in crypto, I pay me in cash. But at the end of the day, it's the use case. If the use case fits the purpose, then the market will adopt it, right? And this is more important, right? We want mass adoption. Next is, Rosina, do you have any thoughts on this? She has a lot.
Okay, so when you talk about digital connectivity, ultimately, what's in it for us? So if I can just add on to the discussion points from Nisa and as well as Idam. You probably have heard about self-sovereign identity, where it starts with that My Digital ID, but it's basically your data, right? And that's where open finance comes in. But you must ensure that data protection allows you to have better access again to FWP financing, as well as protection. So there are some ideas, and I will, quickly just connect that back to blockchain. So, how much is your disposable income in terms of you spending on groceries, mobile phone, buying insurance, and all? Can you imagine? Right, I'm going to paint a picture. If you could set off that amount that you spend anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 ringgit and convert that into, for example, a national reward points. From this national reward points, you will have access additional top-ups, either onto your Touch and Go, because everybody has got its own reward points. Right? Aeon has it. You have Touch and Go, but all that reward points leads to what? additional Tupperware, maybe extra umbrella, but does it really solve a specific financial need that you have? Or collectively, we can do that. We can either use blockchain, which is Hyperledger, in support of co-creating this together. Why not? Faster, better, cheaper. And you are already spending the money anyway, right? Every month you memang kena bayar groceries. Every month you have to pay your telco bills. But if everybody can come together and use that point, and it's always a volume game, how can then we convert that into specific national needs? Two, according to your FWP again. Okay, so going back to stablecoin, you probably heard about TMJs. It's been in the papers. Apa sebenarnya? What is it, right? I mean, so if you were to Google, it's basically, stablecoins is closely connected to cryptocurrencies, but in actual fact, it's got so many other use cases. And I think sometimes it's misconstrued, especially from the banks. The minute we say about stablecoins, oh, cryptocurrency, they take a step back. But actually, it's not. There are so many use cases that we can use specifically also for Islamic finance, and I am in support of creating a working group to see how Malaysia can be as a hub for Islamic digital assets, because we've got so many use cases. Like I said, stablecoins can be used to promote data trust, efficiency, and also eliminate all the middlemen. So everybody use WISE here, example? Anybody use WISE? Alright. So WISE is not on stablecoin, but they have got specific accounts in all the countries for you to get immediate money, almost real time, right? 2-3 seconds, then 3 months. Imagine stablecoins. It's backed by a specific currency. You remove that need to have that physical asset. So it becomes cheaper for us. That's the benefit of blockchain, right? When you talk about de-dollarization among the OIC countries, you know how many trillion that is, just in terms of halal trade, import-export? Can you imagine a world that is supported by the OIC countries of a specific stable coin that provides better access, cheaper, faster, and you remove dependency on the dollar? It's just between that trade that's already also being in discussion. So it's all about creating use case, stable coins, in support of offering better services, removing the layers of middleman, and ultimately provide efficiency, traceability, and governance. That's my take.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Regarding TMJ, the stable coin that was back with ringgit nation, is quite interesting actually. Most people don't understand that these are programmable. Right? When we talk about programmable, it can also help a lot of things, even regulators. Right? What's interesting, I see in the US have something like called USDT, which is a USD-backed cryptocurrency. But they've gotten so big now that US liquidity is basically handled by cryptocurrency back. That means, US have been having problems selling their bonds. Who's buying them? Crypto companies, right? Because they need to back every dollar that actually being issued. There's a question for regulators that can we use crypto stable coin in Indonesia to actually help balance our liquidity in Malaysia? Quite an academic question there. So anyway, I'll open it to the audience to challenge our panel here of experts. Oh, we have a Prof. Hassan.
Except Prof. Hassan.
I'm scared.
Interesting to hear about stablecoin and everything. If you see it's possible for our country to look into CBDC in terms of
stable coin in terms of USDT or USDC, I mean, we are not clear in terms of Sharia point of view as yet. But in terms of CBDC, how far you see that can be another instrument to be introduced to the market instead of using our fiat money? That can be possible from your point of view. I also, you mentioned about the trade finance among the what we call OIC countries, where de-dollarization can be something very natural without having to boast about whether you do BRICS whatsoever. But if you go on the normal, what we call stable coin base to be used by the countries, that can be something naturally de-dollarization without having to do all the controversial and everything. What hold the Islamic countries, in your opinion, to go along their line?
Can I start?
Yes.
The central banking currencies. As a user, I'll take whatever they decide to be acceptable from a bill of taxation. So at the end of the day, however the platform is, everybody needs to agree that that specific currency is something that I'm willing to buy and sell with. So I have my views on crypto and the Sharia side of it. I think we've had that discussion in my previous time with you. But at the end of the day, it's the exchange that we all agree to use. Right? So I think in the test case, the mention about say if you mention say let's call it gold, dinar, Bitcoin to be used by OIC members, I'm all for it. You know, at the end of the day, all those the countries and their central banks need to agree where is it hosted, what is it backed against. The problem with cryptocurrency is you need to know what is backing it. If there's nothing backing it, there's no value. Right? So why is Bitcoin $120,000 per coin? What's behind it? Right? So I think if we agree, everybody agree to have that to be the exchange, then it's fine.
I'm gonna want to try to detach stablecoin to cryptocurrencies because stablecoins can be backed by ringgit, can be backed by dollars, any other, which is why they call stable coins. Cryptocurrencies, it's not stable because it's based on demand and supply. Today can be a certain denomination, tomorrow can be a different price, right? So for CBDC, which is central bank digital currencies, we all know how conservative Bank Negara is when it comes to introducing new products, and their concern is always because of the rakyat. They don't want to disrupt the foundation of the supply of monies. If we are pegged it against the ringgit and there is an outflow, then you get a crisis, right? So as far as I know, they are always open to the digital space, especially towards fintech. It's part of it. There have been countries who have moved forward in terms of CBDC. You probably heard about Uzbekistan having their own stable coins as a legal tender, but the specific use is contained or confined into utility bills, mobile phones, just to make sure that it works within the ecosystem before they actually redeploy it to other use cases. So for me, I think our specific use case could potentially lead towards something like how we did with IILM, which is backed by the central banks of several Islamic countries. We could use that strength of economies from the respective regions as a part of backing these stable coins. So that's my take on it, and I think eventually we would get that. It's just a matter of when.
I think yesterday as well, Capital A, the owner of AirAsia, actually signed up with a partnership with Standard Chartered Bank to do a stablecoin backed by ringgit. And this is something that's quite personal for me because when I was in AirAsia, I created the Asian Day, which is now BigPay. The whole idea when I was in AirAsia was to use the AirAsia Pay card, which is BigPay, for all the payments on board. It's when you buy your drinks and food and everything. So for that stablecoin backed by currency, it's going to be used by Capital A. I think that will be, for me, it could be a good case study to see how it's going to be used as the entire whole Capital A AirAsia ecosystem. You know, you never know. So that's something to watch to see how it's going to be work on the fluidity of the whole capital in AirAsia itself. Yeah.
There's a brother there.
I'm Vishnu from IIBF, PhD section. First of all, I found the panel discussion very inspiring and very insightful. Thank you very much for all the distinguished panelists. My question is direct to Madam Hairunisa, CEO of South Capital. Madam, you mentioned several fintech initiatives primarily targeting the gig economy community. Particularly riders and drivers, these including cash financing and e-planning financing and merchant financing and eventually Umrah financing for the riders and drivers and merchants. My question is, I'm keen to know how you integrated Islamic social finance within these initiatives. Especially, could you briefly elaborate on Islamic social finance instrument you employed these fintech your models? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the question. Very good question. Actually, Grab is actually, yeah, it's very good because Grab has the ecosystem, as you know, and they have built the ecosystem from the drivers, riders, merchant, and now to all of us as the passengers. I will not say, because we are going to work on the passengers very soon too. So, but for the ecosystem here is that when we instill the whole Islamic social finance, first we talk about capital access. And as you know, we started during COVID days where capital access was very difficult during that time in 2020 to 2022. So we built that. And the beauty part was that in Malaysia, the whole about capital, when you talk about lending, everybody thinks about the conventional lending, which is the money lending license, yeah? So the money lending license is very archaic in that manner. I will not touch about that. But Islamic financing basically is based on, we use the profit rate commodity trading, which is still interesting for Grab because they can incorporate variance profit rate based on the credit risk of the individuals. So for example, if you are a good paymaster and if you are a good worker, a good Grab worker, every day you earn probably about 300 ringgit a day, they will give you a very attractive profit rate, for example. If you are a very lazy worker, you will probably drive only once a day and then probably get a commission of 50 ringgit, they probably can give you a stricter profit rate, for example. So I think they have that capacity to actually work on the right offering to their individual based on the professionalism, on the work hours that they have put in. Same with merchants. The merchants, if you are delivering nasi lemak every day, you know, and you're getting about 1,000 ringgit a day, and you probably want to have another access to open another outlet, for example. So that is the capacity, the capital access that they're giving to this consumer. And the turnaround time for them to pay, if they say they pay early, they will not have any charges of that, any settlement. And the beauty, something that we are also working together with Grab right now through their program called Grab Benefits. So this Grab Benefit is purely for the riders and drivers and merchants to offer even wealth protection as well. For example, insurance, and now we are talking about giving will writing. So we create a holistic whole solution for this whole ecosystem, which something you can think of. Where do you come from, by the way? We never know. Sri Lanka is a good ideal country that you can actually implement this for the whole community, a selected community. It can be a plantation community, it can be a transportation community, which you can build that whole holistic ecosystem. So we are a technology, we stack up the product offering based on that technology, and Grab actually offers that based on their capacity. Yeah. I hope I have answered your question. Thank you.
There are some Slido questions here. I'll let the panelists, maybe you want to answer one from Anonymous or Fajar.
Is Grab. Is Grab big tech? Yeah, so everybody is talking about ecosystem. Grab has now evolved into a bank. And Grab is if you probably we can say that it's a big tech because the app itself has everything in it. But they are going into fintech. If you think about how fintech started, how digital banks started, think about Alibaba. Alibaba, when they first started, they realized that the cash that they have, with all the merchants that they cover, amounts to more than the capitalization of the biggest banks. They were sitting on $40 billion overnight, right? So what do you do with that? And they figured the data that they have with the merchants enable them to do that. So they are the first digital bank that we could think of. And what do they want is on the data that you access. Big techs and eventually became fintechs. The only reason that the 5 digital banks are probably a safer route for you compared to the big techs because we are regulated. That's the only difference, right? So you have non-banks coming to the front, to our shores and giving out billions of ringgit. So what's the difference between my competition, right? So, but I'm regulated. But the Consumer Credit Act that is coming up will bring everybody, including attorney, onto the fold to be as regulated as banks. So that is only good for all of us, the consumers. So big tech are going into fintechs. Fintechs could be really small players like us, employing big tech.
Thank you. Maybe can someone answer Fajar's question? What's the business model?
I think what is a sustainable business model for a social finance fintech? I mean, from my perspective, I mean, at the end of the day, I handle commercial, right? So it has to be a combination. What makes sense to your profit margin at the end of the day, and what makes sense to your operating costs as well. But the business model for me, it has to be a combination. Is other that you want. You cannot compare yourself to other competitors. Competitors may have their different business model, but if your business model for me is all about understanding your costs, understanding your consumer, and how you want to actually manage your profit margins. For me, it can be a combination of subscription, it can be a combination of revenue model. It depends on the situation. Yeah.
I think to put it into a specific use case, for example, so I'm going to use Koha Digital. So we do subscription-based with our agencies, but there could potentially be also profit sharing because as a digital technology partner, we will also onboard other ecosystem, for example, your trustees, your lawyers, because I will not be able to answer every single question of the individual when it comes to whether their wealth or their legacy planning in terms of the Mara'i punya calculator. So I will onboard all these ecosystem partners, my trustees, my lawyers. So every single time they answer, they could potentially then also receive payment because they will then, like for example, if there is a business partner, 2 individuals, 50%, 50%. So upon his or her death, who will then receive his or her right of that 50% share? So all those things could be under a power of attorney. So they would then have to engage with the lawyer directly in support of addressing that specific legacy planning needs. So every single time the appointment of that legal lawyer or trustees,
I, as a technology platform who has provided this ecosystem, will potentially get either profit sharing or a transaction fee basis. So there are many implications of how we would then redeploy this commercial aspect, but ultimately, because there is competition, healthy competition among all the fintech companies, who's the cheapest, fastest in offering your products and services?
We have 1 minute left.
Yeah, I think just to that one. What's the best business model? Something that we haven't touched yet with this forum when it's talking about Islamic social finance, it's actually blended finance. So this is something that Bandara has been pushing for us to do. For you to understand what blended finance is, let's look at Grameen Bank in Bangladesh. So the sources of funds is basically, if you think about a bank, you're getting people with excess funds to give to people with no excess funds. But the sources of funds has different types of returns that they want. If I'm giving my capital, then I want my return on my capital. If I'm giving my sedekah, I don't want any return coming back. If I'm giving my zakat money, it has to be for specific discipline. If I'm giving my wakaf, I cannot lose the value of the investments that I make. So if you plan everything, right? So can I give out, if you think about, I need to give out a loan to a B40 person. You come to a bank, I'm going to charge you 24% because I worry about the return, your ability to pay back or your willingness to pay back. But if I have blended the sources of funds to come from sedekah, to come from my actual capital, to come from zakat, then I could go to a B40 and say, okay, I'm going to lend to you lesser than 24%, probably just 8%, because you have a part of the contributor in that financing which is willing to give away even the principal. So the best model for Islamic social finance is to actually come together and have it in a blended way. So at the end of the day, the beneficiaries are the societies.
Alright, thank you very much. We are at the end of the session. Thank you for the amazing panelists and everyone, the audience. You guys been fantastic. For the next steps, let's keep building solutions that are impactful, inclusive, and maybe a little less complicated than they sound in the brochures, right? Alright, Assalamualaikum, and I'll give it back to the staff.
Thank you very much to our panelists and moderator for the engaging session and enlightening discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, as our gratitude and appreciation, I would like now to invite Dr. Shara Shahira Muhammad Yusuf, Director of iSFIS 2025 and the Dean of IBF, to present a memento to our panelists and moderator. We start with, welcome Madam Khairunisa Ismail, CEO of Sedania Salam Capital. Next, please welcome Encik Ilham Sabki Baharum, Treasurer and Chief of Sustainability, Young Bank, Mr. Berhad. Please welcome Madam Muslina Ramli, Strategic Advisor of Koha Islamic Digital Singapore Berhad. Last but not least, to our moderator, Dr. Rizal Muhammad Noor, Assistant Professor, Kuliah of Information and Communication Technology, IIUM. Boleh kita buka ke depan untuk ambil gambar? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we will now break for tea and networking. Please be back in your seats by 11:45. 11:45. We just give you 5-6 minutes for the tea break. Okay? And we'll be back on 11:45 a.m. Thank you very much. Enjoy your breakfast and refreshment.